Imagine getting thousands of eyeballs on your products in just a matter of hours. That is the power of paid advertising. It can amplify your reach, skyrocket your sales, and lead to huge income spikes in your business. However, ineffective ads can lead to little to no sales and put you in the red, which is why it's important that you're running ads the right way and giving yourself the best chance of success. In this episode, we are breaking down the 4 factors that determine the success of an ad so that you can increase your sales and take your brand to the next level. My name is Adrian Von Arx, here with my co-host Carrie Egler, and welcome to the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. What is going on, guys? Welcome to episode 101 of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. Carrie, we've broken through the 100 episode threshold. How are you feeling?
We're on our way to 200, man. We did it.
Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, that was really fun doing episode 100. It's such a milestone number. Not much more than a milestone, but a great milestone nonetheless. So here's to another 100 episodes. I'm pumped. Going into 2025, I don't know about you. I'm feeling I'm really starting to feel all the new 2025 energy.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah, the holidays are coming, so it's wild.
Yeah,
it's just all that's on my mind right now is the holiday season and just everything happening. There's just a lot happening. so I don't think I'm there yet. I think I need a little bit of calm before I can think about 2025.
Yeah, fair enough. It's not everyone's there yet. I'm definitely feeling it already, man. I'm feeling that energy. But anyhow, let's shout out one of our amazing listeners. We got a super kind 5-star review from SM Barsky, and they titled this. Let's go. They titled this "Different Type of Beast." So I want to read this. It was so nice of them.
What a great title!
Nice. What's that?
What a great title for this
review.
Right? Just pumping up my ego. Beast.
Different type of beast. All right, let's hear what SM Barsky has to say.
This could be a 1-star review or a 5-star. I'm just kidding. He calls it a beast, so
deflate the ego. No. All right, here we go. I'm working my way through the entire run of episodes. I've listened to many different POD podcasts and watched numerous YouTubers. Adrian and Carrie are different in a good way. Other podcasters share their knowledge, but limit the extent of this knowledge to the listeners. Then they hit you up to take their course to hear more. Adrian and Carrie do not have those limits. They are willing to share their experience on the podcast without limits. To deep dive, you can take their courses, but they share at least the basics for their POD plan each week on the podcast. That is what sets them apart. Keep up the great content.
That's awesome.
SM Barsky, thank you. It's so nice to hear reviews like this because really that was the plan all along. No gatekeeping, just put it out there. Lots of strategy that you can just take and run with today. We want to see people take action and we want to see people win, whether they join our programs or not. So I love hearing reviews like this, reading reviews like this. So thank you so much. We appreciate you and we appreciate all our amazing listeners. If you have a similar experience or if you're getting value out of the podcast, please consider leaving us a review on whatever platform you listen from. We greatly appreciate it. And you might be shout out one episode. So you can maybe you'll get a shout out. So keep the reviews coming. We really appreciate it. All right.
Thank you, SM Barsky. We appreciate it.
Yes. All right. We've got a bit to get through here. I always say this might be a quick episode and then it ends up going an hour. So I'm just not going to say that this time.
You already brought it up though.
What's that?
You can't bring it up like that. You already basically said it.
I brought it up only to set the expectation that although it seems like it could be quick, it might not be quick at all. So
All right.
let's just jump right in. Now, this episode is going to be all around creating effective paid ads using the Facebook and Instagram platform, also known as Meta, Ads Manager, Facebook ads, whatever you want to call it. Really, there is no doubt that the quickest path from 0 to 6 figures in sales involves paid advertising. But what are the factors that actually lead some people to get explosive sales while others get crickets? I've been there with the crickets. Carrie, I'm sure you've been there with crickets. We've all experienced it. Nobody likes it. So today we're going to be breaking down the top 4 factors that really make or break the success of ads so that you can set yourself up for success, make more sales, and grow your brand quicker. That's the goal of this episode. So there's 4 things, 4 key factors that we're going to cover. And how I organize these key factors is they're all important, but I intentionally organize them from what I personally believe are the least important to the most important. So we're going to start number 4. We're going to go to number 1. Number 1 is by far the most important. Some of you might be able to guess that right away. You might be right. We'll see. These are all important, though. I'm not saying that like just because number 4 is the least important, that doesn't mean it's not still extremely important. But I just wanted to go kind of in that particular order, kind of like a countdown. So let's start with number 4, the 4th factor in determining whether your ads will be effective, and that is targeting. Targeting. So it's very important that you're getting the products in front of your ideal customers, which is really where targeting comes in. That's the role targeting plays. So using Facebook ads, you have a number of different targeting options. I will say that's shrunk significantly over the years. I personally think that's a good thing. But you still have a number of targeting options, things like location, age, gender, and a whole lot more. And when I first started writing ads way the heck back in like 2016, probably, targeting was much more important. And you could get really granular with your targeting. You could target by certain brands, certain interests that you can't target by anymore. There were all sorts of targeting. Fortunately, although a lot of the targeting options are gone, Meta has actually become very good at finding the most likely buyers for a product very quickly, in my opinion, through its machine learning and optimization process. So my recommendation for targeting in 2025, so looking past this year, even going right now and going into 2025, is actually to target pretty broad and give Meta the control to find your ideal customers. They're very good at it. And the other thing I will say is you might actually be surprised who your buyers are after looking at the metrics. It reminds me of a quick story. Hey, I want to invite you to my free masterclass where I reveal how to make your first $10,000 in sales with Shopify and print on demand. If you are just starting out, this will give you a head start. And if you're a POD veteran, this training is meant to help you multiply your growth faster. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can register for that free training by clicking the link below in the show notes or by going to ecomlegendsacademy.com/grow. When I launched one of my brands, I was actually targeting females. I was thinking I was targeting females between the ages of like 20 and 35. That was kind of like the age range that in my head, who I was creating for. And I rolled out all these designs. I started running ads. I started making sales. And very quickly, I realized that the people buying my products were not who I thought would be buying my products. Like I made my products with women 20 to 35 in mind. However, when I actually analyzed the data after making a whole bunch of sales, I realized that most of my buyers were between 35 and 44. That was the age range. And a lot of them were between 45 years old and 54. That was like the biggest chunk, 35 to 54 years old. And I thought I was creating a brand for 20 to 20 to 35-year-olds. So what did I do? Well, I looked at the data and I leaned into it. I just leaned into it. So then what I did is I used that to better optimize my ads and focus more on the demographic that was actually converting. I wanted to share that quick story because I am one of those people who thought I knew who I was targeting, only to find out that the people buying my products were not, a lot of them were not my quote target market. Carrie, do you have any similar experiences like that?
Uh, yeah, I don't think I specifically have had that experience, but I've definitely seen it. I just,
Yeah.
and that's not to say I always like get it right or anything. Just like
Right.
for it to be drastically something different. I don't know that I've had that exact experience, but I wanted to ask you in regards to this though. I wanted to ask you like your. I'm just curious. Would you recommend this for beginners? If you're just starting to run your first ads, would you still recommend going pretty broad or like maybe let's just talk about that a little bit,
Sure.
kind of what our thoughts are.
Yeah, I do. I actually do. I think Meta just keeps getting better at finding the people that are most likely to buy your products. What I like about going broad is you're giving them the control to go out and find those people who might not be who you think they are. Now,
Mhm.
there are some very general parameters that I would put in place. For example, I would start by targeting the US personally. I would start by targeting the US, and then as a future scaling, unless of course your whole market is another country.
Yeah.
Like if you create funny pickleball shirts for Germans that are in German, obviously target Germany, right? But for most brands, I would recommend putting the parameter of the US. I think it's a consumer shopping capital of the world. There's 300 million, over 300 million people here. People are very comfortable buying online. There's a lot of reasons that I recommend starting by testing. Also, depending on who you're using for production and fulfillment, it usually is the best customer experience, just in general, because there's a lot of production facilities in the US. So I recommend this is what I recommend to most people. There are exceptions. Targeting the US, and then if it's gender specific and if it's age specific. So if my target market is females in the US, I would target I would put those parameters, females in the US. And then if it was an age specific demographic, like let's say you were targeting seniors for, I'm trying to think of something like knitting for seniors, like a knitting brand for seniors or seniors who are passionate about knitting. I'm just making something up on the fly.
Sounds about right.
Obviously, yeah, if that is who I'm targeting, then in that case, because it's so specific, my ideal customer is seniors. I would probably veer on the side of like targeting by age, even though like Meta still has control to go out of those parameters. So, like, if they think there's other people, they might go out of those parameters a bit. But I do like to direct it on like a very broad level and then let them do the rest. That's my personal preference in 2024 and beyond. That's not how I used to be. I definitely used to be like you start with like one very dialed in audience. Many times is like, 1 million, 2 million people, very, very dialed in. And then that was kind of the sample size. If that did well, then you started scaling out to other audiences and you
Mhm.
started testing broader. But now, just with the way that Meta's going, with Advantage Plus, with the machine learning and the AI that they have baked in, and just how much data they have that we do not, I am very comfortable putting my trust in Meta to find the people that are most likely to buy my products. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think generally I would agree with you. I think a couple thoughts that come to mind. The first thing would be, I mean, my recommendation would be keep it broad, but there are bigger interests that you can put in there to really help Meta kind of guide your ads.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if it is a niche specific design and you just go gender, age, it's helpful to put a larger interest in there. So again, we're struggling for examples today, but if it was, let's go back to the knitting example. If it was a knitting brand for seniors, so you've got it by, you may leave the gender out if it's for, girls and guys. You might put an age, starting age point in there. If it's a little bit older, you might put 55 in there plus, but then you might put in like knitting as a general interest to guide it. Like back in the day, as we've been talking about, I would be very, very targeted, very small. Like I would be looking for like, a knitting magazine, a brand of knitting, like of knit that you can buy, and like anything that I could think of. I would be brainstorming a huge document of knitting interests, and then be creating new campaigns and ad sets with all those small interests. It might only be 100,000 people, a couple 100,000 people, and see, trying to like find which one's going to be the one that hits. Whereas now, on a much more broad level, it might just be knitting, just as a very like basic interest. You could go basketball, you could go, swimming, you could go, there's big, really big, broad interests that you can target. And that's what I would recommend as well, is giving it some guardrails, but not going too specific on what you're targeting. If it's swimming, you don't have to target Michael Phelps. You can just target swimming. Right. So, that's how I would look at it. And I kind of covered my. Oh, what I was going to say was that I think this is really good because they've made it so much simpler.
Mm-hmm.
I think where a lot of new sellers might get hung up is going in, when you go into Facebook Ads Manager, Meta Ads Manager, you've still got all these like crazy options. There's a ton of different options, right? By location, you can target down to the neighborhood if you want to target a specific zip code or neighborhood, within a city. There's a lot of options. And I think when you go in there, if you don't have the proper training, if you don't know what we're saying here of like, keep it simple, you can still be like, well, I want to look for all these insane interests and try to stack them or like combine them together and, really go really deep and specific on my targeting. And you actually don't need to do that anymore. If you just keep it wide open and you give it a few basic guardrails, you're generally going to have better results. And so, just speaking to new advertisers out there, try not to get too bogged down with all the options in there. Like listen to kind of what we're saying, not just what we're saying though. I mean, it's pretty much anybody that's experienced in Facebook and Instagram ads that's currently advertising. I mean, they'll tell you broad is the way to go, because this has been the last couple of years that this continually kind of moved this way. AI has gotten so much better. The algorithms has gotten so much better. So keep it simple. Just keep it wide open. The bigger the audience, the better, and just give it some basic guardrails would be what I would say.
Yeah, no, I second what you say. If there is a very broad interest for your niche, then yeah, that can be fantastic, because that can still mean is like 20 million people, right? It could still keep it very, very large and a huge audience. And I agree, like pointing in the right direction can be helpful. Now there are some broad niche targeting options that used to be available that are no longer available. So that's kind of what I had in mind. Like, for example, I was thinking Christianity. You used to actually be able to target Christians. You could target Christianity, and there was all these different subcategories you could target. And it was amazing if you were in the Christian niche, because you could just combine a whole bunch of different niches and cast a super wide net and know that you're getting in front of most Christians. There was so many options, but those are gone now for that niche. That's just an example of one that's gone. But let's say that you were in the pickleball niche, because we talk about pickleball all the time, and pickleball was one of the options. Yeah, it would still be huge. Like that would still be what I consider broad. Like when I think about narrow targeting, I think about targeting special groups, magazines, organizations,
Celebrities.
Right. Celebrities, all these sorts of things, right? But if you can find a really broad one like pickleball, I think that's fantastic. And you can give Meta the ability to still go out from that, but it just kind of like does point them in the right direction. A lot of those aren't there anymore, those targeting options that people used to be able to use. But some of them definitely still are. And as long as it's, it's big and it gives lots of room for Meta to go out and find the right people, it can be great. It can be really great. All right.
Yep.
Let's, anything else you want to mention about that?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Let's jump on to the third factor, and that is your website. So let's talk about website. Really what it comes down to is you just want to ensure that your website looks trustworthy, professional, and it's easy to buy from. It's kind of crazy, I've actually seen so many stores that are not that easy to buy from. And that sounds wild, right? Like if it's not easy to buy from, people aren't going to buy from it. So not only does that negatively affect the customer experience and break trust, but it's also, if it's challenging for someone to buy, many times they will not buy. Even if they want the product, they'll go on your website, they'll see the product, they're having all these struggles, there's all these things missing, there's information missing, there's errors on the website. Sometimes the checkout is just straight up broken. I've seen that before, where like literally people couldn't buy even if they wanted to. These are things we want to avoid. And so with that, if you have a website, if you have a website right now, I want you to go and just test your checkout process. Most likely it's working. However, the brands that I saw whose checkout was broken, they thought they were working. So this is something, it only takes a couple minutes. Go on your website, click on a product, add to cart, go through the checkout. You don't have to complete the purchase and actually buy it. Just get to the point of checkout and make sure that everything goes really, really smoothly and that there's no friction in the process.
Can I just add, Adrian?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just add that just make sure you do it. What I would recommend is that you do it in an incognito window or you do it in a private window, just so it doesn't remember like any cookies or any logins or anything like that. So that you can, when you do that, and I think most people know how to do that, but if you're on your computer, like if you're using Chrome or Safari, like you can start a private tab or a incognito window. You can do the same thing on your phone. And it just kind of blocks out any like existing cookies and logins and just any information that your phone might remember about you. And that allows you to see it as a new customer, potential customer would see it when they come to your website. And the second thing I would add, hopefully you may have this on here already, but would just be test it on your phone. Would be the primary place to test it because we know that 80-85% plus traffic is coming through mobile now to our websites. And so viewing it on desktop is cool, but it looks completely different on your phone and it operates completely different on your phone and the speed and all those kind of things. So do it on your phone, do it in a private window, and that gives you the most accurate test.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. Like so many people build their websites on a desktop or on a laptop. They're not building a Shopify website from their phone. And so you're going to see a different view than if someone is on their phone on your website. And a lot of the themes, they automatically have mobile optimization built in. So you're going to see it on your desktop and then you're going to go on your phone and it's actually going to look different automatically by default. That's fantastic. We want our websites optimized for mobile first. Carrie said it. 80-90+% of people are going to see it from a phone. So it needs to look amazing on a phone. That's even more important than looking at on a desktop, because if 80-90% of the traffic is coming from a mobile phone and only 10-20% is come from desktop, then it makes sense that you would want to lean into the mobile. So 100% test your mobile. So many times I've seen that where we're doing a website review and we're on desktop, then we pull out our phone to check it, and there's a lot of issues with the mobile version. That is not good. If anything, it should be the other way around. Both should be good. They don't have to be fancy. They don't have to be crazy. Nothing to, keep it simple. You can keep it very simple, but also just really clean and user friendly on both mobile and desktop. Aside from that, you want to ensure that your website is fast, it runs smoothly, and that the checkout process is very easy. You don't want to complicate it anymore. You want to make it as easy as possible for people to buy. Really, that's the goal of the website, right? Get people shopping, get them finding a product that they love, and then help them complete the purchase for that product. So it's important to realize when it comes to your website that many times you're going to have customers visiting your website for the very first time. They've never heard of your brand because you ran an ad, cold audience, right? You ran an ad to someone who's never seen your brand. They see a product they love, they click on it, it takes them to the website. And now it's our job to make them very comfortable, to build trust, and to create as little friction in the buying process as possible. Because if they're unsure about the brand, if they feel like, oh, I can't tell if this is legit or not, any sign of friction will make them more likely to abandon their cart, leave the website without completing a purchase. So that's why you want those things. Additionally, you want to ensure that your website is actually optimized for sales. And there are so many ways to do this. Again, I want to encourage everyone to keep it very, very simple. All these things that we're recommending don't mean that your website has to be complex. I
Mhm.
actually don't want your website to be complex. I just want your website to be clean, professional looking, trustworthy, and very easy for people to buy. So, some ways that you can optimize your website for sales are through high quality imagery. This is huge. High quality imagery, a variety of product photos. So I never recommend just having one product photo. I see a lot of websites, like newer websites, where it's just one single image and people just want more, right? Like I actually think it looks less professional when I go to a website and I only see one image. It looks like a new website to me. Maybe it's because we've seen so many websites. We've created so many websites, we've seen so many websites that we just know, but it just looks like, I don't know if lazy is the right word. And I don't think that's people's intention. It just looks kind of incomplete. It looks empty. It just doesn't look trustworthy. Like, you know what I mean? So
Oh, exactly.
definitely
Yeah.
have, right. You know what I mean, Carrie?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think our listeners know. I think our listeners know. When you go to a website and you go to a product page and there's like an image that you can clearly tell is a stock image,
Hmm.
and they have a stock product description. They're like, you read it and you're just like, this doesn't even say anything about the design. It's all just kind of like stock about the t-shirt. And then you see that there's no reviews, and it's just like, and it looks like the generic Shopify website, like all those things combined, like, yeah, you just go, this isn't trustworthy. This is like a new brand, or
Hmm.
it's just somebody fiddling around on their desktop or on their computer.
Yeah, totally. It looks like the website was just launched. And
Yeah.
that's not what you want. Even if the website was just launched, there's a lot of ways to make it look trustworthy and look like an established brand that's actually been around for a long time. And again, that doesn't mean it has to be complex. There's just certain things that improve the professionalism and the appearance of the website. So a
Yep.
couple other things that really help with like optimize your website for conversions for sales are having a very thorough FAQ. People are going to have questions. And a lot of times, if they've never heard of the brand, they're going to have some more questions because they just want to make sure that they're not on some scam site, right? And so, having a very thorough FAQ, having a transparent returns and exchanges policy, I think that's like it. It's really good to be transparent about your exchange and your returns. It doesn't mean that you have to have it everywhere, all over your website. Just have it in the most obvious places. Generally, in the footer of a website, you can always find a returns and exchanges policy. At a minimum, have it in the footer. That's where people I feel like are just trained to go nowadays to find all the helpful links, and that's one of them. So just having that shows that like we're not trying to hide this. It's in the place that most people would expect, and you can read it before you make a purchase. Another thing, contact information, that, and then trust badges. I really like trust badges. They can be things about your return policy, like if you have a 30-day easy returns policy, if you have worldwide shipping, if there's some differentiator. Maybe you're in the hiking niche and you plant a tree for every sale. These are great things to mention. And I really like putting them right under what we call the call to action button, is really the button that says add to cart or the button that says check out, those buttons there. Um, so aside from that, Carrie, I want to hear your thoughts. And then I have one other kind of mini pointer that I want to mention.
Yeah, I mean, my big thoughts would be that, and I don't want to spoil the rest of this, but but I think it's important when you're looking at the whole process. You're running ads, and you're trying to analyze, like, are they working? Are they not working? Why aren't they working? What's happening? If you just look at your whole the whole sales funnel, as I call it, or the process that people go through, there's only a few things that can really go wrong, right? And if you just look at it from that standpoint, it makes it a lot easier to figure out what's wrong. So if you're not getting visits to your website, your ad probably stinks, right? Like, the targeting is not right. The ad is not good. We're going to talk about this a little bit more. If you're not getting add to carts, then the product page probably stinks, you know? And if you're not getting sales, then maybe your checkout's broken. Like, if you're getting the add to carts, but you're not getting the sales. So you just gotta kind of look at each step and really analyze it and see, like, am I getting this thing? If I'm not, or if it's too expensive, then you can make improvements in those areas. And
Mm.
so the website is a huge portion of that. And I like to think of the website as the retail store. And you think about the experience when you walk into a store, right? When you walk into J.C. Penney versus you walk into Louis Vuitton, those are two completely different experiences, right? You walk into J.C. Penney and everything's old, it's kind of gross, and most of them are shutting down, and there's like a mouse runs across the wall, and then everything's super cheap, right? And like the brands aren't very good, and then you talk to the employees and they're not nice, and they don't treat you well. Well, if you walk into a Louis Vuitton, obviously it's a luxury brand, everything is spotless, the products are beautiful, the people wear suits, they offer you a bottle of water, the experience, right? And so your website is that experience, and you want to create a great experience. And I would think of it like, when you go to a website, are you on your phone or your desktop, and you get like 37 pop-ups, to me that's like going into the JC Penney and it's like super dirty and people aren't friendly, right? Like, if you think of it in that way, like I'm just ragging on JC Penney. Are they still in business?
I don't
Um,
even know.
I don't but to me, the website is that it's that experience of them coming into your store. And what do you want that experience to be like? You want
Mhm.
them to have the information that they need. You want them to know that the sizing is going to fit them right, or it's not going to fit. You want them to know what it looks like on a real person that ideally looks similar to what they look like, because they're at your ideal customer. You want them to be confident in your brand by looking at reviews and seeing that other people had a good experience with your brand. And so that's the way I like to think of it. And yeah, I think the website's a really important piece of the whole puzzle.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And we're going to kind of get into some of that in the next two. It's so true. It really is a funnel. That's what it is. You have to have a good ad to get someone to click and be taken to your website. You have to have a good website for someone to click on the add to cart button and want to complete the purchase. And then you have to have all the information that people want to buy, and you have to build trust with them. It has to be a trustworthy professional website for them to feel comfortable actually pulling out their credit card, throwing it down, and completing that purchase. You need all those steps. It's so true. And the next two are kind of focused around optimizing the funnel, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But the last thing I want to say, just in closing for website, which is number three, is that although having a professional looking and trustworthy website is extremely important, it's not going to impact all of your sales if you're using Facebook and Instagram Shop, since this allows shoppers to purchase within Facebook and Instagram without ever leaving the app. So they can go, they can see your products, they can add to cart, they can complete their purchase without ever leaving Facebook or Instagram, which is amazing. Like, what a frictionless buying process. Most people go to Facebook and Instagram not to shop, although some do, but a lot of people don't go there to be to shop. They go there to be educated, entertained, or inspired. And what we're doing is a form of, I don't really like this term, but like disruptive marketing, where we're trying to get their attention. I like to call it demand generation. So essentially, we're trying to generate demand for our products by getting them in front of the right people. And if we can do that many times, they're going to be happy that they saw that product, and they're going to go and they're going to complete a purchase, and you've got a happy customer in most cases,
Yeah.
assuming that it's a good experience, a full customer experience, right? But that is one nice thing, is that you want to have a professional website and expect that people are going to go there and check out. But if for some reason the website wasn't perfect, but you had a really nice Facebook, Instagram shop, which there's not that much modifications you can do, you can make sales that way. But really, you want to make sure that everything looks good. Doesn't have to be complex. It just has to look professional and trustworthy. All right, moving on to number two. Number two of the four factors, and that is the creative. So in case you don't know what creative means, it's a term used in the space a lot, really for the imagery that you use for your products, i.e. mock-ups, for example, and as well as the ad copy, which is actually the verbiage on the ad. So what does the ad actually say in the caption? And then the call to action button. An example of a call to action button is shop now. So these are all elements of the ad creative. All right. Now, personally, I've always found that image is much more important than the ad copy for sales. That's because it's the image that's going to stop the scroll. People, in almost all cases, they're going to see the image before they read the ad copy, the caption. And if the image isn't compelling enough to get them to stop the scroll, then they're never going to read the caption, right? So I've always found that the image is the most important part of the ad copy and the of the ad creative. And the ad copy, if they don't stop from the image and they don't read the ad copy, then it's useless, right? And so you need it's good to have some ad copy, and yes, some might perform better than others, but in most cases, they're going to see the image and that's going to be what they stop for. And then they might choose to read the caption. They might not even read the caption. They might just hit that call to action button and then start shopping right away. So in most cases, this is what I see. And that's why the imagery is actually so important. So I want to talk about mock-ups just for 1 second, because this is the most important part of the ad creative, in my opinion. So even though the design is generally what's going to be what sells the product, like the design has to resonate with them or they're not going to buy it, no matter how pretty the mock-up is, right? That said, the product imagery, that can still play a huge role as an enhancer in marketing your product and influencing a shopper's purchasing decision. So that if they're on the fence about the design and they see this really nice imagery that really resonates with them and looks like them, and they feel like, oh my God, I can totally imagine myself wearing this shirt, that could be what tips the scale for them, right? That could actually be the difference if they're on the fence. So, even though the design is more important than the creatives, that's the power of having good creatives. It can definitely improve your conversions. So, common issues that I see when it comes to imagery, because that's most important, so I just want to focus on that for a sec, is many times it's just not eye-catching. It's not attractive. They're like these very granola, generic mock-ups that just, they look very much like an ad and they just don't stop the scroll. They don't capture the eye. Many times they don't look like the ideal customer. Like if you're targeting seniors, you probably don't want to have like a 20-year-old in your ad. That just doesn't make sense. It's out of alignment. That's probably not going to capture their attention because immediately they're just going to scroll through and think that that's for someone else. That's not for them. Your products aren't for them, right? Many times the images are poor quality. So sometimes they're pixelated, they're granular, they're blurry. This is just obviously a conversion killer because it really affects the professionalism and it's just a bad first impression, right? So you always want to make sure that you have really crisp imagery. And many times another common issue I see is that the design is too small. Like remember, if 80 to 90+% of people are looking at your ads from a mobile phone, you need to have your imagery and the design itself, it really needs to be prominent. Like it needs to be readable if there's words on there. And it needs to be easily visible if you want to stop the scroll. So sometimes I see them, they're just too small. And I'm like, people are just going to scroll right past this. They're not even going to know what it says. They're not going to take the time to know what it says because there's another dopamine hit the next time they scroll down. You know what I mean? It's tough to stop the scroll. And that's why we have to create these eye-catching imagery and really make the design the hero of the image. So Carrie, I want to hear your thoughts.
No, I think you covered it really, really well. I think the biggest issue with the creative and specifically the image is, so number one, it just like not being the center or being too far away. It just like, again, I think you mentioned it, but like they're viewing it on a mobile phone in most cases. It's got to be like right up there in your face. It's got to be right in the center. Another thing, sometimes they can look too fake. You can just look too fake as a mock-up. Like you want to have a realistic looking mock-up. It can be the wrong type of person, as you mentioned, just not matching up with who you're really targeting. We found, I think we both agree, we found that a lot of times not having like eyes or like, the full face in the photo and actually just focusing on the t-shirt is a really, really good idea, really converts really well. When you don't have like another focal point, so people aren't kind of looking at the face, at the eyes, but they're just directly looking at the design. And we're talking about t-shirts, but any example really. So yeah, I mean, it's just, you covered it really well. Those would be the big things, I think. Experiment though, have fun with it. Experiment with different types of images. Try different things. Try different. Sometimes what I've found in the past is I'll swap out the background color, for 5 different colors and just pop those all into the ad campaign and see if a different color just seems to pop or something, something changes. So just experiment, have fun with it. But use these general guidelines that we've given you to, just based off what we've seen has worked the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the best way to know is to test. Really, it's like that's why so many people spend so much money on ads. First to test, then to optimize and to scale. So yes, 100%. A couple other tiny little things that I mentioned that I just thought of that are also worth mentioning are if this is something I actually see quite a bit where the mock-up actually covers up part of the design. And I'm like, oh man, it's such a conversion killer, especially if it makes it hard to read. So what you want is
like hair or arms or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or it's like a shirt and it's really wrinkly. And then when you put it in somewhere like Place It, it has all these lines through it and stuff. And you just can't read it really clearly. Like you need to make it vivid, total clarity when it comes to being able to see and read the design. These are going to help people. It's going to help you stop the scroll. So you just want to make sure that it's not partially hidden or obstructed in any way. And that's a big reason why the mock-ups matter. There's a lot of terrible mock-ups in Place It. Terrible. They're not good for conversions. Now, there's a lot of good ones in there, but there's also a lot of bad ones because Place It wasn't just made for print-on-demand sellers trying to sell apparel. A lot of non-apparel brands are using those exact same mock-ups for totally different reasons, right? And so you have to keep that in mind. Like they're not all optimized for conversions. And that's why some perform. I've had 6-figure ads come from Place It mock-ups, but like I would only probably even consider using like 5 to 10% of those mock-ups to run ads to, because a lot of them they're not sales optimized in my opinion, for one reason or another. All right. We are down to the final, and in my opinion, the most important factor that is affecting the performance of your ads, good or bad, and that is the designs. So if you guessed that, you are correct. Give yourself a pat on the back. This is by far the number one reason I see and experience ads not converting. In its simplest form, you really only need 3 things to make a lot of sales. You need a product that people actually want to buy, you need a place for them to buy it, and you need eyeballs on that product. That's it. In the simplest form, down to the studs, that's all you need. So a place for them to buy it would be somewhere like your Shopify website. eyeballs on the product, that's the goal of ads. But when it comes to a product that people actually want to buy, this is where I see most ads fall short. They're just not scalable. They can't be scaled up with bigger budgets to make more sales, right? So if you're struggling to make sales with paid ads, there's a very good chance, I would say this is by far the most common thing I see when I'm reviewing my students' ads, is that it's just not a product that has mass appeal for their ideal customer. And I'm not trying to say that that can't make sales. It absolutely can. A lot of designs will make sales, but they're just not, quote, scalable. So what happens is you make some sales, let's say organically from Instagram, and then you get really excited and you run an ad to that product and you put, let's say, $15 a day behind it, and it's been 3 days, you spent $45 and it's like crickets. Well, that doesn't mean it's not a product that people don't want to buy. It just means that it probably doesn't have mass appeal. And if you want to really scale up your ads, if you want to, if you have a winner, you need the mass appeal. You need that mass appeal for your ideal customer. Those are the ones that are going to lead to huge income spikes in your business. And those are the designs that can totally transform your brand. And a lot of people, they run ads and they don't get sales, or they get very few sales and they're in the red. They're not profitable. And they look for other areas to, I don't want to say like point the blame, but other areas to as like a reason for the ads not converting. When in most cases, it's the design. It's the design. And this is why I always tell my students, like, don't get emotional. Think of this as like an experiment, right? Like, intuition is great, but data always wins. Run the ads, run the experiment, look at the data, and make your decisions, make database decisions based on what you see, right? Like, a lot of people, I know they love their designs, and you should love your designs, especially if you are very passionate about the niche that you're serving. And many times you are, right? But here's the thing, like, just because you like it doesn't mean that it's going to have mass appeal. Even if you're so sure, like, the data doesn't lie, right? So what I recommend is just take the emotion out of it and think of this as just like, this is just the system that you have in place. Like, whether you love the design or not, or you think it's going to be a winner or not, test it against others, and then look for the outliers, the ones that perform the best and have the most promise, if they're break even or profitable, and then try isolating those and putting more ad behind that. But you're going to get validation with ads, good or bad, and you're going to get it very, very quickly. So when it comes, and most of the time, it's the design. So I have some more to say about this, but I want to hear what you have to say, Gary.
Yeah. So the big thing I would say is that nothing else works if you don't have the design.
Amen.
Right. And so that's why it's number one on this list. But all the other things we talked about, it all comes back to the design. So that's the big exception to what I talked about earlier, was like, hey, analyzing your whole sales funnel, right? Well, you're not going to get the clicks, you're not going to get the add to carts, you're not going to get the checkouts unless you have the winning design, or you have a design that at least some people find, that they want to buy. And so this is why it's so important to experiment with designs, to do design research before you actually create these designs, and why it's important to release a lot of designs, because one design can be the difference in a brand that makes no sales and a brand that makes 6 or 7 figures. One design. And a lot of huge brands that are, just crushing it they've gotten huge on the back of one core design. And typically that's what we see, right? That's what I've experienced. That's what you've experienced. That's what we've seen with our students, is like, hey, not to say that I've had many designs that have like done really well, but a lot of times it's like that one design that skyrocketed, that took you to that next level, and then unlocked all the other pieces of the puzzle for you. So it's so important to continue to put out a lot of new designs frequently and continue to test new designs. And you want all these other things to be great. You want your website to be great. You want your creatives to be awesome. You want your targeting to be on point, but none of it is going to work with the wrong design. And so I just think that, like, I get so many questions and so many students that are really, like, I just think focused on the wrong thing. A lot of times they're focused on, like, do I have the targeting right? Can you look at this for me? Do I have I can't figure out why these ads aren't working. I can't figure out why people aren't buying on my website. They're trying to analyze all these things, which is, it's good to analyze those things, but none of it really matters until you get the design right. And so
Yeah.
that's the most important thing. That's where you should be spending your effort, your time. You should be investing more into the designs than anything else,
Yeah.
right? It's it you can go buy a paid Shopify theme and you can spend $1,000 on making your website the prettiest website you've ever seen in your life. If you don't have good designs that people actually want to buy, it's just a waste. You know what I mean? So it's all a waste if you don't have the design. So
Yeah.
that's the absolute most important thing. That doesn't mean designs have to be complex, as you mentioned here. That doesn't
Right.
mean designs have to be expensive. That doesn't mean that they have to take a lot of time to create, but they do have to resonate with your potential customer. They do have to grip people. They do have to make people feel something,
Yeah.
or they won't buy it. And it has to be a message that they want to wear on their chest, right? That
Yeah.
they want to a message that they want to make public.
Yeah.
They're not going to buy something they don't want to walk out and show their friends, or wear out in public. So think about that as you create your designs.
Yeah. No, that was so well said. Like, you could have the perfect targeting, the perfect website, the perfect creative. If your design isn't good, you won't make sales. Now, the kind of like flipping that, what's funny too is that you can have mediocre targeting, a mediocre website, and mediocre creatives and still make a
Still
ton
sell.
of sales. I see this all the freaking time. You can still make a lot of sales if you have a winning design. Obviously, the best case scenario is to have all these things dialed in, all these things dialed in. That's going to, I believe, maximize your sales. But you can still make a lot of sales if you're like not perfect in those other areas, but you have a winning design.
Adrian,
And
it's really important what you just said, because a lot of people are out here trying to become marketing professionals.
mm,
Like, they're trying to become experts in, like, running the best Facebook ads. And in my opinion, that's not what you should be focused on. You should be focused on creating the best designs. And even if
yes.
you stink at the Facebook ads, they will still work if you
Mm-hmm.
have the right product, you have the right design. So just think about where your focus is right now. Marketing might be fun for you, might be something you love, and like me, right? I love marketing. And so it's exciting for me. I love doing it, but, like, I have to be the best thing I have to be at is the designs.
A freaking man. I 100% agree.
Let's
So
go.
let's talk briefly about design research so that we can give people tips on how to
We could
actually
do a whole
create.
episode on design research.
Oh, easily, easily. I love design research. And I actually want to, so the reason why we're so bullish on design research is because we know that a winning design can transform your brand and transform your life. But winning ads won't do it if you don't have a product that people actually want to buy, right? So this is why I made this number one. And this is why I wanted to kind of dial in on this one and give this one the most time. But really, how I like to break down designs is I like to break it down into two parts. First, design research, and then design creation. There's a quote that I heard recently that I really love, and I'd heard it before, and it was actually an Abraham Lincoln quote. And this, I want you to think of this in the context of design research. So this quote says, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe." That's exactly how I feel about design research. Before you create the designs, put the time aside for the design research. You know, it's funny too. We know that simple sells, we know that simple designs perform very well. It might only take you 5 minutes to create one of these designs. But if you can allocate a lot more time than that to the design research to find validated designs that are winning right now, and identify those ones that are selling right now to your ideal customer, that they're buying, that they're wearing, that they're representing. And you can use those as inspiration to create your own designs. That's going to significantly increase the likelihood of that design converting. It's not always going to be the case. It's definitely not always going to be the case. However, if one person is creating a totally random design off the top of their head, they have no evidence to show that anyone in their niche likes designs like this, and another person, they're sharpening that axe, they're doing their design research, they're finding winning designs right now in their niche, and they're creating designs inspired by those and getting those in front of those right people, you're going to significantly improve the likelihood of conversions. And so you want to give the people what they want. And best of all, you don't have to be super creative. You just have to commit to the research, spend the time sharpening the axe, i.e. doing the design research, and then chopping down the tree is actually creating the design. That in most cases, that should be a fraction of the time that you actually spend on the design research. And what's nice too is that you can batch both of these. You can save a ton of time by allocating time every week or every month to design research, which is pure focused design research. And then where you find, let's say, 20 hot selling designs right now that you can use as inspiration. And then you batch another block of time where you just create maybe 5 or 10 designs from that research that you did. Carrie, your thoughts?
Man, I think you covered it well. We don't have enough time for me to get into all of my thoughts. Let's do an episode on this for real, though. I mean, have we ever done an episode on design research? I'm sure we've touched on it.
I think we did do a episode on design research a couple months ago, but honestly, I would be happy to do another one because it's just one of those subjects that doesn't get enough love. It's kind of like email marketing. It's not sexy, but it works, right? It's not sexy, but it's super effective. And the people who are actually benefiting from that and are making a whole bunch of email marketing sales, they think it's sexy because they see the dollar bills. Whereas like design research is the same way in my opinion. Like you can create 100 random designs that are totally, off the top of your head and don't have any validation. Or you could have another person who creates 10 well-validated designs. And even though they have 1/10, if I had to put my money on one of those people creating a winning design, I would say the person who did the research. You don't have to create as many. Like you should be rolling out designs regularly, of course. But if you're creating validated designs, there's a much higher likelihood that those are going to outperform the totally original non-validated designs. So that was actually quite a bit. We talked a lot there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to recap the 4 factors that determine success with paid ads, and then we'll be on our merry way. We'll wrap this up. So those 4 factors are: first, targeting; second, website; third, ad creative; and fourth, and by far the most important in our opinion, is the designs. So with that, we will bid adieu and start preparing for episode number 102. But thank you, everyone, for listening. We want you to go out there, take action, start before you're ready, and always remember that you're just one design away.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Print on Demand Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave us an honest review on whichever platform you're listening from. Thanks again and have a great day.